Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello. I think we're live. One of my screens looks frozen. Thank you guys for joining me. My name is Crystal with the Dog Psychology. In your personal life, in your family life, in your work life, every part of your life, you need to have clear, definable boundaries. And there's no exception in the world. And so we're going to talk about boundaries and the struggles of setting boundaries, the difficulties of maintaining them, and the importance of keeping them. So we're just going to go ahead and dive in here. Boundaries. So what kind of boundaries could you set for dogs? Oh, hold on. I think I might have lost a screen here. Says we're still live. I don't know. I'm just going to keep going. Sorry about that. And you might see me blowing my nose. It's just allergies. It's this little brief fall that we're having. So dogs, just like kids, they need boundaries. And not only do they need them, they love having them because it's very comfortable to live in a life where you know what's right and what's wrong, what's consistently going to get you in trouble and what's consistently going to get you rewarded or appreciated for making good choices. So what kind of boundaries can you set for dogs? Oh, so many. And this is where we tell families, we have what we call our leadership protocol, that if you want to be a leader, your dog not only understands, but wants to follow. We really need you to set some boundaries that are going to make sense for your dog. And we want you to be consistent with them, especially after your dog goes home from training with us, just to make sure everything your dog learned here also transitions to your house as well. So what we recommend is, sorry, I had a little person speaking to me and it distracted me. And so some of our leadership boundaries that we have you guys set at first are temporary. We don't ask you to do them forever unless you want to. But some of those boundaries could be not letting your dog on the furniture. If your dog has a history of aggression or reactivity or resource guarding, we would ask that you never let your dog on a height-seeking object, whether that's a piece of furniture in the living room, a bed, a chair, and they start snapping and biting at people again or other animals. If your dog doesn't have a history of that, we still ask you to do it for the first few weeks, but then we let you choose. Do you want your dog up on the furniture to cuddle with them? Okay, as long as your dog's not being a jerk about it, that's perfectly okay. Another boundary might be for us. We don't let dogs on the stairs if there's people on the stairs. That's a very strict boundary that we maintain. And as much as our kids will try to coax and prod all the dogs to make the bad choice of going down the stairs with our kids, all the dogs know that the authority figures, mom and dad, me and Eric, and Christina, we don't allow that. That's just a very strict rule that we've always had. And so the dogs will sit there and they'll shake and they'll wag and they'll be like, yeah, we're going to come as soon as you get off. Can you get off? Can you get off? Because we'll come. And they wait patiently because that is a boundary. That's a very clear boundary that we set. There's no question in the dog's mind, am I allowed down with the kids or not? On the flip side, the dogs are definitely allowed to go down the stairs if one of the adults in the house, me, Eric, or Christina when she comes to train, if we say, yes, break, you're allowed to come down the stairs with us, they don't question it. They just come. And so having clear, definable boundaries helps you set that precedent of black and white. Okay, there's very little gray area. Your dog knows, it's very definable what's allowed, what's not. Another boundary we have is a dog they will sit patiently and wait for someone to give them that release word, which is break. And they just don't try to challenge us on that because, again, we did lots of repetitions and lots of practice and lots of role playing to define that boundary. Another boundary we have is no stealing food out of someone's hand, no stealing food off of the floor. Just because it's on the floor doesn't mean it's okay for dogs to eat. Even if it's their dog treats. There was one time I went to open a bag of dog treats and I'm such a messy person. I forcibly tried to open this bag and it exploded. Like the bag just ripped in half. The treats went everywhere. And I was about to freak out. And I had, I think, our 4 dogs and I think 1 or 2 client dogs that we were dog sitting or training. And they all ran to the kitchen because they heard every little piece. And so I got the broom out and I swept up most of it, but I left enough for them because they waited so patiently. And when I was done cleaning up all the rest, I said, break. If those dogs would have ate all of those treats, I would have been dealing with diarrhea, maybe upset stomachs, maybe some reactivity, especially if they were trying to go after the same treat, or one of my kids was maybe in the kitchen and I accidentally opened that and now my kid's standing by a treat. There could be some reactivity. Again, we avoided all of that by having clear, definable boundaries. And so why are boundaries hard to stick to? Because they take effort. They take responsibility. There are times in life where I don't want to get off the couch. I don't want to have to get up and enforce this. But I know, especially at the beginning of my dog's learning experience, just like with children, the younger they are, the more present you need to be to help them understand right and wrong. I know I have to hold their hand at first, or it'll never work. And so I get off the couch, as uncomfortable as it is for me being pregnant right now. Those kittens have gotten me up and down off that couch so many times. My stomach will start cramping. But I do it. I know if I don't do it now, I'll have to keep doing it for the rest of my life. And I'm not okay with that. So boundaries can be hard to maintain. Especially sometimes we want you to set boundaries that aren't going to be permanent. So there's temporary, but we want you to put the word harmonious, non-boundary crossing relationship. But he said, even these are things that we actively enroll in our family, in our household. And so, yes, our kids may not be 100% compliant or complicit because they're kids. The older they get, the better they get, but especially at that toddler age, it's kind of hit or miss. But again, dogs are intelligent to know, they're intelligent enough to know that kids may be above them in the pecking order and the totem pole, but kids are not the directive givers, right? So my dogs respect my children, but they don't always have to listen to my children, because kids can also be bullies and they can overdo some things as well, right? And so we've also taught them very clearly what must be obeyed by children and what's selective. So exterior doorway thing must be obeyed by children. The get back command, if a dog's in my kid's face and they say back or get back or go lay down, the dog must obey that. And I really don't care what the dog does after that point. They can go play, they can go lay down, they can go find another dog to play with or play with a toy. They just have to get away from my kids or our guests and give them that space, because that's respect. Okay, I want my dogs to be respectful and well-mannered. They have to, if my kids are feeding them, they have to wait for my kids to dump that food in their food bowl. My kids have to put the scooper thing away. They have to come back in because it's in the garage and kitchen, so there's a doorway in the middle. They come back in and then they step aside from that bowl and they kind of say, like, they kind of do this little bow and say break, and then the dogs can go eat the food. They must obey that. That's a respect thing. If my kids say sit, my dogs don't always have to obey. Because one, it's easy to forget that they have to wait to say break for the dogs to end that command, but also because I can't do this anymore. So for our dogs, when our kids give what we call formal commands, sit and down for us means sit or go straight into a lay down command, and do not move until I give you permission to. It can be 2 minutes, it can be 3 minutes, it can be more. For the sit command, we never do more than just 2 or 3 minutes, but for the down command, it can be 20 minutes. I mean, they can lay down for a long time, right? And so for our kids, those become casual commands, meaning if my dog wanted my kids to pet them and my kids said sit, my dog has a choice. You can sit down and you can receive that affection, or you can say, no, I am done with you right now. I don't want you to touch me, and you can walk away. And so it becomes an optional thing for them, but they know our kids to respect adults. Troopers out there, and there are child predators out there, and my kids know not everybody has their best interest at heart. And so there are those times that we talk about this a lot, we role play a lot, and we do a lot of what if scenarios to say, how can you politely say, no, thank you, I don't want to give you a hug right now, or no, thank you, I'm going to go get my mom, or how to speak very loudly so that everybody in the room can hear you if mom and dad's not present. And so little things like that to. There are some you don't. But generally, you have to respect all people, right? We're all God's children. You have to respect everybody. Same with dogs. There are people that you must obey, the household leaders, mom and dad. And then there are people like guests, house guests that maybe don't come over very often and aren't familiar with your dog's lingo or commands, or children in the home that are younger. So if you have like teenagers, that's different. But children that are younger in the home, it gets to be this optional thing for some commands. And then there are some commands that we don't make optional, and your dogs must obey from those kids. So boundaries are a marvelous thing. They do take work. They do take time. They do take effort. But when you put that effort in now and you put that effort in consistently, it doesn't take that long to enjoy the rest of your life with your dog. If you're not consistent, your dog's going to keep testing. Is this the day that the boundaries don't have to be enforced? Okay, yeah, I got away with it. And then the next day you're going to be like, oh, what are you doing? You're not allowed to do that. And he's going to be, oh, I thought I would try it because yesterday you let me get away with it, right? Or 5 minutes ago. Or I've been doing this for the last 10 minutes and nobody's caught me and now you're mad at me. You have to be consistent. So if you cannot be consistent in watching your dog and maintaining their boundaries, there's two things you do. You put them on a leash. So everywhere you go, they go. They're always in your eyesight. They're always present. That leash is in your hand inside the house. Or you put them in their crate. It's like the equivalent of a doggy pack and play or playpen. If you can't watch them like a hawk, put them somewhere they can't make a bad choice. So when you get them back out, you can watch them like a hawk and monitor their progress or their lack of progress. This is not a lifetime protocol. This is a temporary protocol. This is a learning phase, right? We don't have to go to school forever, although some careers do seem like you go to school forever, but we don't have to go to school forever. We just have to go to school enough until the information makes sense to us and it's there and it's muscle memory, and then we're good, right? You just have to do it enough so that it makes sense to your dogs. That's it. That's all I got today. So I hope boundaries was something that you could understand, something you can implement, and something you understand why the commitment to maintaining it is so vital to you and your dog's relationship. All right, guys, that's all we got today. If you have any questions about boundaries or what could be allowed or what shouldn't be allowed, feel free to post them in the comments. I'd love to answer those for you. Boundaries, especially household boundaries and manners, there's one of those things that's from household to household. It differs. There's no consistent universal, your dog must always do this. There are some requirements if your dog has a history of aggression or reactivity or resource guarding, where there is going to be a universal, no, this is not allowed because it is going to trigger some aggressive or reactive behaviors. But for most dogs, it's your choice. Some families love having their dogs on the couch with them. When we had a miniature schnauzer, we loved having Pepper cuddle with us. When we had a Mastiff and 2 pit bulls, I would love for them to cuddle us. We did sit on the floor to cuddle with them. But if they cuddled on the couch, we wouldn't have a couch. We would just have a giant dog bed that we may or may not fit on. And so every family gets to set up their own boundaries, their own rules. And that's what these questions can be for. So if you have any questions, please post them in the comments and we'll help you set a clear, definable boundary to your dog and go from there. So I hope to see you guys next week. Until then, have a wonderful week and thanks for joining us.